Apocalyptic images continue to come out of LA County, where the death toll has risen and thousands of people have lost everything.
And Canada is joining the firefight. Ontario is now the latest province to send help. Doug Ford on that tonight.
And as the Liberal Party scrambles to set out the rules for its leadership race, Pierre Poilievre takes jabs at possible contenders.
This is Live at 5. Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latifat. Thank you for joining us here on Live at 5. We are tracking the wildfires that continue to burn out of control across Los Angeles County. 5 people are dead and thousands of people have lost their homes.
Okay, CP24 CJ Liu is monitoring the latest developments and joins us live from the newsroom. CJ.
Okay, we're having trouble hearing Sija there. We are going to try to connect with her in just a moment, but staying with the situation in Los Angeles, we know that Canada is helping. Provinces like BC and Quebec are joining the fight, and now Ontario is getting involved as well. Premier Doug Ford says the province is sending aid to California to help battle these wildfires.
For more, let's go live to CP24's Beatrice Vaisman. Beatrice, we just heard from Premier Doug Ford. You were there asking questions. As you know, he gave answers.
Certainly, Bakari, and this is just one way that Canada is helping its ally to the south, how Ontario is helping its southern ally. And the fact of the matter is California needs help. They need more human power to help tackle these devastating wildfires. We've seen the photos. We've seen the devastation, the destruction that's happening down there now. And it's not just Ontario. The premiers of Quebec and Alberta also pledging support for California. As for specifically what the province of Ontario is doing, I can tell you not only have we already sent water bombers along with some pilots that have been recalled. So there's 2 water bombers and pilots, 165 urban firefighters with equipment, along with the ability, of course, to scale that up if they need more support. Also supplies going stateside. We're talking about hoses and pumps and chainsaws, axes, other equipment. And then the province also standing ready to send incident management team up to 20 additional staff members. These are people with expertise in, of course, disaster management, logistics, command, coordination, communications, response planning, safety, and mapping. All of these resources are essentially being offered. They're standing at the ready. They're not down there yet, in the sense that the federal government still has to coordinate directly with their partners down in California to get this aid and this support down there as quickly as possible. But the premier is saying that all of these supplies and these firefighters stand at the ready to help. Here's more from the premier.
This is an example of what I've been saying. You know, our closest friend and our closest ally needs help, and we're going to make sure we're going to be there for supporting them. And I know other premiers are going to do the exact same thing. But this is what you do when you see what's happening on television. It's a tragedy, what's happening in California. And the poor frontline firefighters, they're absolutely exhausted, and they need some relief.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also speaking about Canada's aid down to the south, saying our American neighbours, Canada is here to help. The Prime Minister adding that Canadian water bombers stand ready in action, 250 firefighters from across the country ready to deploy, and that the Canadian forces are standing by to move personnel and equipment down to California as well to help alleviate some of the tremendous pressure on first responders down in the LA area. Back to you.
This, Beatrice, and more now on those devastating wildfires that continue to burn out of control across Los Angeles tonight. Sija Liu has been tracking those developments for us. She joins us live with the latest. Sija.
Lena, Bakari, at least 5 people are confirmed dead from the wildfires, but we are hearing from officials that the death toll is expected to rise. But the good news is the winds that have fueled the flames over the past few days have calmed down a bit today. That means firefighters have been able to go on planes and begin to douse the fire from above. However, there are gusts expected into Friday and over the weekend as well, so they are not out of the woods at all yet. That being said, there are still 5 major wildfires wildfires burning out of control. Most of them are at 0% containment, and they're still investigating the causes of the fire. And when it comes to the largest one, that is the Palisades fire, which has exploded to over 17,000 acres, which is being called the most destructive wildfire in LA history. As of right now, at least 180,000 people have been forced to evacuate, at least 5 deaths. But we'll let you hear more from the fire officials in LA on what the situation looks like on the ground.
We have both rotary and fixed wing. When the winds sustain to those levels, of those 100 to 60 mile an hour levels of winds, that makes it, aircraft can't fly in those type of conditions. It's dangerous, they can crash. But right now we're taking advantage of the weather. We got aircraft up all last night. We had over 7 helicopters flying throughout the night. Today we have all our fixed wing and rotary wing that we can get up. Today though, unfortunately this afternoon, here in the next couple of hours, winds are supposed to start increasing back to those ridge tops, reaching, according to the National Weather Service, up to 60 miles per hour.
And as of right now, over 400,000 people in LA County still don't have power. And in terms of damage, early estimates from AccuWeather are saying anywhere from $52 billion to $57 billion. And keep in mind, with that Palisades wildfire, that is in a very affluent Pacific Palisades neighborhood. So those are those big celebrity homes. Money doesn't matter here. We're hearing people, actors, actresses like Ben Affleck, Demi Moore, Eugene Levy, all their homes have also burnt to the ground. So Lena and Bakari, when it comes to this situation, money doesn't matter. The whole area here is being impacted.
Okay, CP24's Sijia Liu reporting live from the newsroom. Now, earlier we did hear from CP24's Beatrice Vaisman, who was at Queen's Park, speaking with Premier Doug Ford about the response that Ontario is sending. Well, Doug Ford was also asked about potential retaliatory tariffs during a news conference at Queen's Park this afternoon. Here's part of that.
Yeah, I think there's more to come too. I agree with their list and other areas that I've seen. I agree with it. But isn't this a shame? You know, it's a shame that we have to go down this road with our closest ally and friend. Let's build a stronger two countries, the most prosperous and wealthiest and safest countries in the world. That's what I want to do. I want to send them more electricity. I want to send them more critical minerals. We need to work together. And as I've said before, I've talked to endless governors, endless congresspeople and senators, Republican and Democrat. I have yet to hear one of the elected officials say they agree with this approach.
All right, 5:07 out there, -7. Let's get a check on that drive home with our traffic specialist, Ajwa and Siayabwa. Hey there, Aj.
Oh, good evening, Lena and Bakari. It has not been the easiest go. Still watching a few problems on this very, very busy Thursday afternoon. Still watching this collision. It might be about to clear. This is Toronto-bound lanes of the QEW through Cawthra. Find the right lane and shoulder blocked at the collision. It does appear the one vehicle that remains just getting hooked up to tow, so a sign that things may clear. In the meantime, still pretty busy from here, Ontario. Then eastbound on the 401. Hard to see the problem with all this jammed up traffic, but here's the issue. Eastbound 401 in the Express. Right through the 400, center lane blocked and a stalled transport. Heavy tow just arrived on scene. And we still have issues. Actually, they cleared. So some good news. Northbound on the Don Valley Parkway, a long-standing stall just north of Bayview. Bloor was in the right lane. Situation cleared. On city streets, a collision on Jane right at Wilson. I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thanks so much, Ajwa. Well, police are asking for help finding a man who allegedly abducted his son during a trip to India.
Yeah, investigators are trying to track down 48-year-old Kapil Sunak and his 3-year-old son, Valentino. Police say that Sunak traveled to Delhi with his son in July and was ordered to return to Canada in August, but he never came back. Investigators are asking anyone with information on Sunak and Valentino's whereabouts contact police.
Police are asking for help to identify a suspect in a violent carjacking.
They're looking for the person seen in these photos who's considered armed and dangerous. On Tuesday, around 8 o'clock that night, and police say that a person was sitting in their vehicle near Yonge and Seals when the suspect opened the door. That's when a struggle ensued. The victim was stabbed several times and taken to hospital with serious injuries. The suspect ran away from the scene. He's described as being white, about 5'10", with a thin build. Anyone who recognizes him, you're asked to contact police.
Well, we are learning more about a cyber attack that impacted the TDSB and several other GTA school boards last month.
And the incident involved the Power School application, which it's used to store student information. Today, Power School informed administrators that sensitive and personal information was affected. That may have included social insurance numbers, birth dates, or even medical information. Power School blames a compromised username and password and believes that it was found by the attacker on the dark web. The company also acknowledged that it paid a ransom for the hacked data, but didn't reveal how much was paid.
And a statement from the interim TDSB education director says, working with Power School, we are conducting a thorough investigation to understand the nature of the incident and what personal information may have been affected. At this point in time, we're still assessing the exact information that may have been accessed or exported from the application. Power School has informed us that it has received confirmation that the data accessed by an unauthorized user has been deleted and that no copies of this data were posted online.
And Power School released a statement that reads, quote, "We've taken all appropriate steps to prevent the data involved from further unauthorized access or misuse. The incident is contained, and we do not anticipate the data being shared or made public."
The implication here is that there's just such a growing volume of data on students, on children, on families year over year, that the longer criminals wait to hack these organizations, the more juicy data they get and the more harm they can cause with the information that they steal. There is no excuse for any system to be storing sensitive information in 2025 and still use single factor, in other words, password-based authentication.
They did admit on the call to their customers that they did pay a ransom to the cyber attackers. That amount is undisclosed. I can only speculate on what it is, and I would say that given the speed at which this was quote unquote resolved, combined with the scale of this, I mean, it had to have been a very substantial ransom for that to be the resolution.
The Durham District School Board and Peel District School Board say they've also been impacted by this data breach.
It's 5:12, holding at 7 below zero. This is Live at 5.
Well, taking on Toronto traffic once again, it's a never-ending task. Coming up, we're going to break down the latest plan to get the city moving.
Well, the city announced its latest move in the ongoing battle against congestion.
CP24's Steve Ryan is live downtown with more on today's announcement. What's going on, Steve?
Well, Lena, the city of Toronto first saw or were first introduced to traffic wardens back in 2016. It was a pilot project, and the thinking behind that was to free up uniformed officers, police officers, so they can respond to emergency calls for service. So it was a successful pilot project, and we heard today from the mayor that she is hoping to have 100 traffic wardens by the end of this spring. One of the big reasons for the congestion in the downtown core especially is gridlock. And of course, that happens when a car pushes up to the back of another car, and what happens when the cars get stuck in the middle of the intersection is that traffic is stopped in all four directions. And it really is, first off, it's an offense under the Highway Traffic Act, and it's quite a hefty ticket as well. But the answer to clearing up that gridlock really is these traffic wardens who would be responsible for keeping the traffic moving and making sure that vehicles don't enter into an intersection until they've got a green light to do so. Now, earlier on, we heard from the mayor and we heard from the city manager as well, and here's more from the two of them. Let's listen.
Today, I am pleased to announce that we're going to have 100 traffic agents across the city. Yes, these traffic agents will be moving traffic, getting Toronto moving, giving us time back with our families and loved ones.
We have just about 48 agents who are in their training process right now, and we are hopeful that they will be graduated and on the street in the springtime. And then we have a constant hiring process, so we will start to hire the next class. We also have a partnership with the Toronto Police Services that is providing some additional resources, like at the entrance to the Gardiner Expressway, their special constables as well.
The new hires are expected to add $3 million to the city's budget. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Steve, thanks so much for this. Well, staying on the roads, a new speed camera has been installed on Parkside Drive after it was vandalized for the fourth time in recent months.
The new camera comes with a thicker pole in hopes of preventing future destruction. So the most recent case of vandalism saw the automated speed camera cut down and then it was thrown into a nearby pond in Hyde Park. According to data from the city, the speed camera is the highest grossing, issuing over 63,000 speeding tickets as of the end of December and generating an estimated $6.8 million in fines.
It is now 5:16, sitting at -7 in the city, and you're watching Live at 5.
It's been another whirlwind day when it comes to keeping tabs on Canadian politics. CP24's Lindsay Biscaya brings us the latest, including new comments from Justin Trudeau. That's just ahead. Uncertainty is swirling on Parliament Hill with tariff threats looming and a Liberal Party that's soon going to have to pick a new leader.
It comes as the opposition Conservatives continue to call for an election. CP24's Lindsay Biscaya is following it all, and there's really so much to follow here. So let's begin with Justin Trudeau. He just appeared on CNN. Lindsay, what can you tell us about that?
Yes, we'll begin with that because that's kind of the latest development that we're seeing just last hour. Lena and Bakari, Justin Trudeau, who's down in Washington today, of course, for the funeral of former President Jimmy Carter, then appeared on CNN speaking about the tariffs that are threatening Canada, but more so this ongoing conversation and the jabs that President-elect Donald Trump is giving about Canada becoming the 51st state of America. So we heard more from Justin Trudeau today about that. Here's what he had to say.
We have so many resources in Canada, more than our market can support. So we export them to our closest friend who can rely on them. It is a win-win for us. We would definitely respond, as we did years ago when President Trump put tariffs on steel and aluminum. We responded by putting tariffs on Heinz ketchup, on playing cards, on bourbon, on Harley Davidsons, on things that would hurt American workers. But we don't want to do that.
On the flip side, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, official opposition leader, was in Ottawa today and held a press conference. Obviously, Justin Trudeau has resigned as the Liberal leader, and so the Liberal Party now looking to pick its next Liberal leader. And we heard Pierre Poilievre delivering that message once again that the Conservative Party has been delivering since Monday, saying it doesn't matter who's elected as the next leader. It's no change from the Liberal Party and its policies so far. And we heard Pierre Poilievre speaking about that again today, but also talking about those threats from the U.S. and what he would do, what he would say if he was Prime Minister.
We will stand up and we will state clearly that Canada is a sovereign and independent country, that we will protect our integrity as a nation through strength. First of all, this means a strong economy. We need a massive bring-it-home tax cut, lowering taxes on work, investment, energy, and making stuff in Canada will bring home billions of dollars of investment and paychecks, but will also make us more economically independent and less vulnerable to threats from abroad.
So there is really just so much to watch here, Lena and Bakari, and that's partly because time is of the essence. We know that Donald Trump's inauguration day is about a week and a half on January 20th, and the Liberal Party now looking to find their new leaders. So many things need to be kind of ironed out here in terms of rules, who can vote for that new leader. There's also the fear of foreign interference, and the Liberal Party really needs to look at how it's going to avoid that for this next election. Of course, Parliament reconvening on March 24th, and at that point, analysts say the pressure is on for the Liberal Party to have its new leader in place before Parliament. And we know all the opposition parties are already planning to try to bring down the government again with a vote of non-confidence when Parliament resumes. So a lot to watch for. And of course, we'll continue to bring you the updates.
Yeah, I was going to say, my head hurts. There's so much to follow. Thankfully, you're all over it. Lindsay Biscaya reporting live tonight. Thanks, Lindsay. It's 5:22 -7. You're watching Live at 5.
And saying goodbye to former U.S. President Jimmy Carter. More on multiple services for today. Coming up. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter is being honored today with back-to-back funerals, one in Washington and the other in his tiny hometown in Georgia.
Carter's flag-draped casket was brought into the Washington National Cathedral in D.C. this morning. Several former presidents and dignitaries were there to mourn the 39th U.S. president, including President-elect Donald Trump and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Carter was eulogized by President Joe Biden, who you just saw a moment ago, and one of his grandchildren. Take a look.
To young people, to anyone in search of meaning and purpose, study the power of Jimmy Carter's example. I miss him, but I take solace in knowing that he and his beloved Rosalind are reunited again. To the entire Carter family, thank you, and I mean this sincerely, for sharing them both with America and the world.
They were small town people who never forgot who they were and where they were from, no matter what happened in their lives. But I recognize that we are not here because he was just a regular guy. As you've heard from the other speakers, his political life and his presidency for me was not just ahead of its time, it was prophetic. He had the courage and strength to stick to his principles even when they were politically unpopular.
And Carter will be laid to rest in Plains, Georgia. That's where he was born and lived most of his life, and where a private funeral for family and friends is taking place. It's going to be at the small church where he taught Sunday school for decades after leaving the White House. And Carter will be buried alongside his wife, Rosalind, who died in 2023. Jimmy Carter died in December at the age of 100.
Let's stay in the U.S. now. Parts of the southern United States are bracing for a major winter storm.
One thing we want to make sure, and that is we maintain power throughout this winter episode.
All right, the massive storm's expected to impact areas stretching from New Mexico to North Carolina by the weekend. Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and Texas are expecting the heaviest snowfall. Classes have been canceled for more than 1 million students in northern Texas. This is where temperatures are also forecast to plunge.
It's now 5:27, -7 out there. You're watching Live at 5.
And we're tracking the relentless wildfires tearing through parts of the LA area, including help being sent from this side of the border. Stay with us. Apocalyptic images continue to come out of LA County. This is where the death toll has risen. Thousands of people have lost everything.
And Canada is joining the firefight. Ontario is now the latest province to send help. Doug Ford on that tonight.
Plus, saying goodbye to gridlock. The mayor pledges to add several more traffic agents to Toronto streets. Will it make a dent in your commute, though? And how much is this going to cost?
You're watching Live at 5. Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Lena Ladefat.
And I'm Bakari Savage. We're tracking the wildfires that continue to burn out of control across Los Angeles County.
Yeah, 5 people are dead, and thousands of people have lost their homes. CP24's Sija Liu is monitoring the latest developments, and she joins us live now. Sija, the winds are expected to intensify again, and that is going to make things even more challenging.
That's right. Those winds spreading and fueling those flames. Fortunately, firefighters had a little bit of a break today, but like you mentioned, those winds expected to pick up tonight into tomorrow as well. So they are certainly not out of the woods yet. And like you mentioned, 180,000 people have been forced to evacuate, and those who are still there are facing hazardous conditions like polluted air and sewage. And for more on what the situation is like on the ground, I'm joined by Dr. Irina Dreluk, who is with the Sinai Medical Group in Los Angeles. Doctor, thanks so much for your time today. And first off, how are you and your colleagues holding up right now?
Thank you so much. Good evening. People are doing okay. Unfortunately, we have a lot of colleagues who lost their homes in the fires and a lot of patients as well. So it's a stressful time and there's a lot of anxiety, and we don't know where the fires are heading yet. So there's still a lot of tension around what's been happening and just a lot of sadness and loss.
And when it comes to the people who haven't evacuated, they're facing other hazards like air pollution. Take us through what the precautions you're taking and what others should be taking right now.
Sure, that's a great question. So, number of things that we can do and people are trying to do is stay indoors. The smoke is spreading quite a bit. So a lot of the air in LA right now is very polluted. It's small particle pollution, which is very dangerous to the lungs and the lining of the small airway. It can cause a lot of problems down the road. So right now, the main thing is to try and avoid exposure by staying indoors, wearing masks that are protective for small particles, and also using air purifiers and air conditioners indoors as much as possible. And if people have the option to evacuate, if they have a lot of smoke in their area, then that's also something that we recommend.
And we're hearing a lot of reports about power outages across the LA area, water and sewage disruptions. Tell us a bit about how your medical center has been impacted and how you're handling all the pressures right now.
So that's definitely been an issue. My own house actually had a power outage a couple of days ago. The hospital itself is running obviously very well. We have lots of power generators, so it's a place where people can come if they need support. The hospital has been very good about offering support and making sure the people who work here, our patients, know that they have resources. But we do have a lot of people who are struggling with the power issue, and Cedars is here to help them.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Joy-Luc. We appreciate your time today and all of the work that you're doing. Please stay safe.
Thank you.
And just a quick update on the situation on the ground. At least 180,000 people have been evacuated. The death toll currently at 5, but officials are saying, Lena Bakari, that number is expected to rise. Back to you.
Just devastating. Sija Liu reporting live. Thanks for this, Sija. Let's stay with this story. One day after Donald Trump said the U.S. doesn't need anything Canada has, Canada is helping its neighbor battle these fires. Premier Doug Ford says Ontario is joining the fight, too.
Yeah, for more, let's go live to CP24's Beatrice Vaisman. Beatrice.
Lena Bakari, and I'm glad you brought that up because I actually specifically asked Premier Doug Ford about that. We heard 48 hours ago Donald Trump saying, I don't need anything from Canada. We're good. Clearly today, that's not the case in the midst of this just devastating disaster happening in California. The Premier is saying that the videos, the photos, the images that he's been seeing and the stories coming out of the Los Angeles area are just so tragic to see. And it says it's all about helping an ally and a neighbor that's in need. So we know, of course, there's already some water bombers and pilots down south that were dispatched from the federal government, from Canada, and now Ontario is offering up resources as well. 2 water bombers and pilots being offered up by the Premier, along with 165 urban firefighters with all of their equipment. That number with the ability to scale up, the Premier says, if they need more support. Also supplies in the form of hoses, pumps, chainsaw, axes, and other equipment. Plus, there's a team of 20 personnel that are part of the emergency management team. They specialize in emergency management. They know how to plan logistics, command and coordination, communications, response planning, along with safety and mapping as well. The Premier making these 20 staff members also readily available. So what happens to happen next? Well, they're available. Now, essentially, it's up to the federal government to coordinate directly with the state of California and officials there to get, to get these boots actually on the ground in the LA area. And so here's a bit of what we heard from the Premier just before 4 o'clock this afternoon.
We're working with the federal government. They're working with the state of California, and we're just waiting for the green light. Hopefully we'll get this, and they'll be on their way by tomorrow. We're working in warp speed and just making sure that everyone's equipped, ready to take off.
Ontario, not the only province sending help. The premiers of Quebec, of Alberta, also offering some support down to California as well. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also putting out a message on social media saying to our American neighbors, Canada is here to help, offering up some 250 firefighters that are ready to be deployed to help assist in the firefighting efforts down south as well. Back to you guys.
All right, Beatrice, thanks so much for this. We want to bring in the Federal Minister of Emergency Preparedness now. Harjit Sajjan is joining us live tonight with more on how Canada is helping with the wildfires in LA. Minister, thanks so much for joining us. I know this is a fluid situation and it's a busy time for you, so we appreciate this. Look, the images are heartbreaking. The stories are horrific. What is Canada willing to do to help?
No, first of all, just hearts go out to all the people that are impacted. And sadly, we know in our own country how many Canadians have been impacted by urban wildfires. Jasper was just the most latest example. And the unprecedented what's taking place in Los Angeles now. So we started spooling up very quickly, looking at that it was a very, very serious fire and they potentially could use not only resources, but the right expertise, something that we have here in Canada because we've sadly had these many instances of things to battle urban wildfires. And I just want to thank Premier Ford for stepping up very quickly when we gave the call out to all the provinces. Same thing with Alberta. Quebec already has water bombers there. So we've been in touch with the director of FEMA. Our folks are in touch with California officials as well. As you can understand, that they're tackling the wildfire while at the same time trying to look at what's actually needed. And what we have provided to them, and what I stated, is the right expertise for what they actually require. So they're doing the triage of what's actually needed. So we are waiting for the official request, but soon, as soon as we receive it, we have a military aircraft ready to provide all the resources from Ontario and across the country to them in a moment's notice.
Yeah, Minister, along with that, the pledge from Ontario, hoses, pumps, chainsaws, an incident management team of up to 20 additional staff. Other than the obvious, what is sort of the message here, the symbolic message of our support here?
I'll be honest with you, the symbolic message is that this is what neighbors do. We've been supporting one another when it comes to disasters. The U.S. has always supported us during our wildfire seasons. We've supported them during, many other disasters. And a lot of this work almost happens automatically. But because what's taking place in Los Angeles is so vast and large, why we're actually coordinating a multi-province response for this. But this is something that we always do, and something that it goes back in history. And I get because there's all the discussion of what's taking place with obviously what President Trump is saying. It's a great reminder to the Americans that Canada has always been there for the U.S. at their time of need.
Yeah, we want to remind our viewers that it was just yesterday, incoming U.S. President Donald Trump said Canada doesn't have anything the U.S. would want. And here you are tonight talking about neighbors helping neighbors. Minister, I want to ask you about our military. Are you prepared to move members of our military, and how soon could that happen?
Oh, so it's actually it's not what the military is not the right expertise. What we need right now is highly trained firefighters and incident command personnel who can handle these wildfires in urban settings. This is something that we have a lot of experience because sadly we've had everything from Jasper last year, Enterprise in Northwest Territories, West Kelowna, and many other examples like Lytton. So we've gained a lot of experience, and what we're offering up and are willing to send is the right expertise with the right equipment. Teams that literally can be put into a situation, understand it, and get into the fight very quickly and provide the appropriate support. We're also looking at providing support from our Canada Task Force units, the heavy urban search and rescue teams, including our Coast Guard, because we're looking at the work that needs to be done after as well. At the end of the day, what we need to do is get the resources ready in case it's needed. Good neighbors always anticipate the support that's needed. That's exactly what we're doing.
Now, also, Minister, can you put a price tag on the value of that knowledge, that expertise that our members have from fighting those, wildfires out west?
Oh, it's priceless. I can tell you, we have learned so much every single year. I mean, even when I was Minister of Defense dealing with disasters, and now as Minister of Emergency Preparedness, I have learned so much every single year, every disaster that I've gone to. Some of the images that I've seen, I can say, oh my God, this is what we have been dealing with. From everything from different wind patterns, how to fight the things, what type of support is needed. I mean, for example, heavy urban search and rescue teams are normally not used in wildfires, but because we have used them, our teams in Jasper, in British Columbia, Northwest Territories, and others, that's what we're actually offering up with this very unique expertise if it's needed. But right now, and we've actually trained even more specialized people. Because you have firefighters, you have people who can also train in wildfires, but then there's a speciality when it comes to wildfires and interface fires that go into urban areas like this, and we have that specialties. So, I mean, you can't put a price on something like that, but just as the U.S. has always been here for us when we've had unprecedented wildfire seasons, we're going to be there for them as well.
Harjit Sajjan, Minister of Emergency Preparedness, thanks for your time tonight. We appreciate this update.
Thanks, Minister.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, right now it's 5:42, holding at 7 below, but feeling more like 14 below. Let's get a check on the evening commute with CP24's traffic specialist, Aj. Aj, good evening.
Good evening, Bakari and Lena. And, nothing but brake lights as you make your way out. And then in the mix, a brand new problem. This is a collision impacting the drive on the southbound 400 ramp that takes you to the eastbound 401. It looks like single file through here, one lane blocked, one lane getting by. So if you're on the southbound 400, that's what's creating that slowdown from Shepherd onto those ramps. Onto the 401, if you're traveling in either direction between Victoria Park and Kipling, it's very slow. It is rush hour, but earlier issues on the 401 have all been cleared. Same situation on the Gardner, pretty jammed as you make your way out of and head into the downtown core, but haven't spotted any live lane issues. We do have a problem in North York. It's a collision blocking lanes on Jane and Wilson. I'll send it back to you both.
All right, Adjoa, thanks so much. Time now is 5:42. We're sitting at -7 in the city. Feeling more like -14, though. You're watching Live at 5 on Toronto's Breaking News, CP24. We'll be right back with more news. Stay with us.
The number of people in this province experiencing homelessness is reaching a tipping point. That's according to a new report.
More than 80,000 people were living on the streets last year in a study conducted by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. The AMO says about half of those people have been homeless for at least half a year. It found there has been a 25% increase of people living in shelters or on the streets compared with 2 years ago. The AMO says without significant intervention, homelessness could double in the next decade and reach nearly 300,000 people in the event of an economic downturn.
What we're seeing at this point, and what's really indicated by the numbers in the report, is a real system failure on a number of different fronts. In particular, with the refugee and the immigrant numbers, what you see is an influx of folks into a system that really was not designed to function this way. But it's not just about immigration and refugee and asylum seekers. It's really the product of what we think is decades of provincial policy decisions in areas like income security, mental health and addictions, as well as deeply affordable housing capacity.
And Premier Doug Ford was asked about the homelessness report during a news conference at Queen's Park this afternoon.
Well, it's concerning. My goal, I'd love to house every single person. But keep in mind, we had 800,000 people show up to our doorstep last year alone. We're spending over $1 billion housing people in hotels right now in my area, Etobicoke North, along the airport. There's a lot of people being housed there, and they want to work. We're spending $1 billion for refugees and asylum seekers. My heart goes out to them, but the federal government needs to step up.
A statement from Ontario NDP leader Marit Stiles reads in part, "This report is a searing indictment of this government's inaction on the homelessness crisis. Under Ford's watch, the number of people facing housing instability continues to increase at an alarming rate. Encampments and homelessness in every single community are a stark reminder of this government's failure." She goes on to say, after 6 years, there's still no real plan to address the critical lack of affordable housing that is forcing so many of our neighbors out in the cold.
Well, a new report says that an increasing number of overdose deaths in Ontario involve more than one drug.
The research shows the combination of opioids and stimulants are proving to be especially dangerous. From 2018 to 2022, monthly rates of overdose deaths involving one substance increased by 75%. Deaths involving two substances increased by 167%, while deaths involving three or more substances increased by 186%. Let's take you live to Washington now, where Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is speaking to reporters. Let's listen in live.
Catastrophique. On est en train d'offrir beaucoup d'aide à la Californie. J'ai eu des échanges avec le gouverneur Newsom.
I've had exchanges with Governor Newsom. We're there with resources, with firefighters, and everything they need. Because we see just how alarming this situation is and serious. Obviously, a lot of conversations around the relations between Canada and the U.S. Allow me to highlight once again that Canada will never be a 51st American state. We are
Nous sommes des gens qui se
We
définissent
are
de bien des
people
façons, mais
who
une des
define
façons que les
ourselves in
Canadiens
many
aiment bien se
ways,
définir
but
très simplement, c'est qu'on n'est pas
Canadians
des
quite
Américains.
simply
Et
like
ça,
to define
ça
themselves
va
as
demeurer.
not American, and that will remain.
J'ai aussi eu des
I
discussions
also had
avec des
discussions
leaders des
with
hommes d'affaires ici,
business leaders here in Washington.
Jay Timmons,
Jay
de
Timmons
l'Association nationale des
the
manufacturiers,
National
Joshua
Manufacturers
Bolton,
Association,
de
Joshua
la table ronde
Bolton from the National
des gens
Roundtable
d'affaires,
of
pour souligner
business
à quel
people
point
to
nous
highlight
continuons de
just
faire de grandes choses
how
ensemble
we
des deux
are
côtés de la
doing
frontière,
big things together along the border, which is good for economic growth, good for business, good for workers and consumers in both countries, that we need to work together to avoid tariffs, unfair tariffs on Canadian products, so we can continue to not only benefit the workers on both sides of the border, but also be competitive with the whole world at a time where geopolitics requires strength in North America to work well with the world. So it was a good day, and we will continue to work hard.
in Washington today. Obviously started with the funeral, the state funeral for President Jimmy Carter, who was not just a good friend to me and to my fathers, but especially a good friend to Canada. His leadership, his impact, his humanitarianism, his compassion, his service left a profound mark, not just on the United States, but on the entire world, and he remains an inspiration to all those who serve and lead. I've also been engaging on the issue of the terrible wildfires in California. I've been back and forth exchanging with Governor Newsom of California, and our officials have been closely in touch with American officials to ensure that we're offering firefighters, resources, planes, ships, whatever is needed. Unfortunately, Canada has developed a significant amount of expertise in wildfires that are encroaching on suburban and urban areas. This is something that we're all going to have to deal with more in the world over the coming decades with the impacts of climate change, and we are certainly there to help our American friends. The issue, of course, of Canada-U.S. relations also came up a number of times today. You know, when it comes to Canada being looked at as the 51st state, let me just state it again, that's never going to happen. Canadians define themselves a whole bunch of different ways, but one of the ways that we all use as shorthand is we're Canadian because we're not American, and that is not going to change. In regards to tariffs and the business community, I had some very good and productive meetings with a number of business leaders here in Washington, D.C. Jay Timmons of the National Association of Manufacturers, Joshua Bolton of the Business Roundtable here in the United States, to emphasize that we have become incredibly successful as countries, as economies, as a continent, because we do things so well together. We create jobs on both sides of the border. We create growth. We create opportunities for investors and business people. Continuing to work together and avoiding unnecessary tariffs on goods and products from Canada is in our interest to continue to move forward, both from an American perspective and a Canadian perspective. So we're going to continue to stand up for the interests of workers and consumers on both sides of the border, because there is no relationship in the world like that between Canada and the United States as defined by a win-win for both of us. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you very much.
How does the threat of economic force change your strategy? Are you still able to successfully...
That was Justin Trudeau. That was Justin Trudeau speaking to reporters after attending the state funeral for Jimmy Carter, talking about sending help to California as LA County continues to battle stubborn wildfires. Also talking about that looming trade war with the U.S. He says, let me say it again, Canada will never be a 51st state. That's just never going to happen.
Right now, it's 5:53, holding at 7 below zero. This is Toronto's breaking news. CP24, you're watching live at 5. We'll be right back. Mayor Olivia Chow is expanding the traffic agent program. This began in 2018.
traffic agents are making the city work for all of us. And in this budget, with an extra investment of $3 million, there will be 100 of them. 100 traffic agents to give Torontonians their time back. 100 traffic agents to keep Toronto moving.
We place the agents where we have blocking the box situations and where we have surge crowds. So very often a lot of that is concentrated in the broader downtown, but we've certainly seen similar situations at sites where we have construction, such as some of the Metrolink sites where we've had agents there, up at the Allen Road. And if there was issues in Scarborough where they were needed and required, we would certainly be able to put them there. It's a pretty dynamic system that we're able to track the congestion issues and then apply the agents where we think they'd be the best tool to solve the problem.
Now, there will be 2 graduating classes of traffic agents in 2025, and the city is expected to hire close to 75 by the end of the year. The expansion will cost the city around $3 million.
And the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking for their 6th win in a row tonight.
Back to 34. And it's Tavares shooting, scores!
They're taking on the the Carolina Hurricanes. They're coming off back-to-back 3-2 wins over the Flyers, which extended their winning streak to 5. Puck drop tonight. That is at 7:30.
And down under, tennis stars have descended on Melbourne for the Australian Open. Italy's Yannick Sinner, Ariana Sabalenka of Belarus, they're going to defend their titles as number 1 seeds on the hard court. 5 Canadians are in the field: Felix Auger-Aliassime, Denis Shapovalov, Gabriel Diallo, Leila Fernandez, and Rebecca Marino.
We're at, I feel like, a critical juncture for these young athletes because they're no longer rookies trying to figure out their way on the tour. They're established professionals. And are they content to be in that sort of 30 to 50th in the rankings area? Or are they going to get back up near the top of the game where they've been before and show us that top 10 potential? So I think this is a big year. It's the start of the tennis season. It's the best time if you're a tennis fan right now to be catching some Grand Slam action. And I think all 4 have a chance here to really start their year and make an impression and make a statement that they're ready to push back towards the top.
All right, it is 5:59 now, -7 in the city, but it's feeling more like -14. You're watching Toronto's breaking news, CP24.